Remember the days when our parents told us not to play with our food? Well, I am here to tell you the complete opposite. Get in the kitchen, create something absolutely delicious, and have fun with it. There's nothing better than serving something that you made yourself and that you had an absolute blast making. Like this lemon meringue pie with a graham cracker crust and a torched Swiss meringue topping. Yum. Sally that girl in the kitchen. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sally that girl in the kitchen. In today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to make a lemon meringue pie with a graham cracker crust and a torched Swiss meringue topping. Yes, it is going to be over the top because it's going to be not only delicious, it's going to be gorgeous. It has such a beautiful presentation, but do not be intimidated. It's easier to make than you think. The graham cracker crust comes together in a snap, par bakes very quickly. That lemon filling also very, very easy to make. Just a few simple ingredients, and the same goes for that beautiful Swiss meringue. The mixer is going to do most of the work for you, and it is going to be so beautiful and stable enough that we'll be able to pipe it onto our pie. And why do we choose to pipe it? First of all, it's going to look gorgeous and we're going to get lots of height, but we're also creating those beautiful peaks so that we have tons of surface area so that when we torch our pie, we have lots of caramelization and the scent. Unreal. Just think of roasted marshmallows. Yeah, that's the scent it kind of gives off, and the flavor is phenomenal. So crazy good. So I am super excited to teach you how to make this. So let's not wait another second and let's get started. For the graham cracker crust part of today's recipe, you will need nonstick cooking spray, 1.5 cups of graham cracker crumbs, which you can purchase in crumb form, or you can buy some graham crackers and run them through the food processor. You'll also need a 1/4 cup of sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, of course if you're using unsalted butter, and 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter melted. Now, if you choose to use salted butter, which I actually love, but I chose to use unsalted since we're using that for the lemon filling. If you do choose to use salted butter, then of course omit the addition of salt. And for the lemon filling part of today's recipe, you will need 1 1/3 cups of water, 1 hefty tablespoon of lemon zest. In my case, I needed 3 lemons. 1/2 cup of lemon juice. In my case, I needed 2 lemons for their juice. 1 cup of sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/3 cup of cornstarch, 5 large room temperature egg yolks, which we will temper before adding, and 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter that has been softened. And for the Swiss meringue part of today's recipe, you will need 5 reserved large egg whites from when we separated those egg yolks, plus 3 more egg whites, all of them at room temperature. 2 1/5 cups of castor sugar. Castor sugar is just sugar that has been processed to be even finer. So you can buy castor sugar or you can just use regular sugar and run it through your food processor. Just be careful not to run it for too long or you'll end up with powdered sugar. You'll need a teaspoon of cream of tartar, 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla paste or vanilla extract. You will also need either a 9-inch pie plate or a 9-inch tart pan. I've actually made this recipe in both and it looks absolutely gorgeous in a tart pan, so I'll definitely show you a picture of that later on in the video. You'll need a lemon squeezer, or of course you could just squeeze the lemons by hand. You'll need a lemon zester and a small bowl for the zest. You'll need a long, thin knife, a serving spoon, a cup that's tall enough to hold up a pastry bag that's been fitted with a large round tip. I'll show it to you up close further on in the video. You'll also need a small spatula. You'll need a butane-filled torch to torch that beautiful Swiss meringue. You'll need a wet measuring cup, some dry measuring cups, some measuring spoons. You'll need 4 bowls, 2 large and 2 small. You'll actually need another heat-safe bowl, but I'll show you that in a moment. You'll need a toothpick, some plastic wrap, and you'll need your mixer with the whisk attachment. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention the oven mitts, and you'll also need a trivet. And you'll need a medium-sized non-stick pot and a silicone spoon, and you'll need another medium-sized pot with a large bowl that is heat safe and can fit over the pot. You want to make sure there's enough space between the little bit of water we're going to be adding to the pot and the bottom of the bowl. You want to fill the pot about 1/3 of the way up, but you don't want the water touching the bottom of the heat safe bowl. And you'll also need a whisk, and if you have one, a second whisk, or of course you could always wash the whisk and reuse it. And finally, you'll need a cooling rack. So now that we have all of our ingredients and tools together, let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is separate your egg yolks and your egg whites so they come to room temperature. It's easier to do when they're cold, so we want to do this first and then let them slowly come to temperature while we work on the ingredients for our pie. So we'll need 3 bowls. You want the large bowl to be your heat-safe bowl, the one you're going to use as a double boiler, and then you want 2 of your small bowls. We're only going to be needing 5 egg yolks for this recipe, but we are going to be using all 8 of the egg whites. So let me show you what I mean. We're going to separate them when they're cold, but that's why we're using 3 different bowls. So one of the bowls is going to be for 5 yolks, which will be part of the recipe. The other one will be for 3 yolks, which you can set aside, and then the large one will be for our egg whites. So just go ahead and very carefully separate your yolks from your whites. So you want all 8 egg whites in the large bowl, and then in one of the smaller bowls, you're going to add 5 yolks, and then the other 3 will be in the other bowl. We're not going to be using those 3. And I'm doing this right over the egg whites, which is probably not a great idea, because if you get some yolk into your egg whites, it can really affect the stability and that beautiful rise in your egg whites when you make your beautiful Swiss meringue. So do this over another bowl to be safe, but then you want all 8 egg whites in the big bowl, then 5 yolks in one, 3 in the other. The 5 we're going to use, the 3 we are not, and we're going to use all of those egg whites. So we're going to put these in the fridge for something else. And then the egg yolks, you're going to cover real well with plastic wrap. And then we're not going to vent it. You just want to make sure that's covered real tight. And we're going to let this sit on our counter and just come to room temperature as we work on the rest of the pie. But for the egg whites, we're also going to cover it in plastic wrap. But once it's covered nice and tight, then we are going to vent it, which is why we needed a toothpick. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab a toothpick, and then you're just going to puncture a whole bunch of little holes into this plastic. And then, of course, we're keeping all contaminants out the same way we did with the egg yolks, but this time we're allowing it to vent because we don't want a skin to form on our egg whites as they come to room temperature. So this will let some air circulate and no skin will form on top as it comes to room temperature for our beautiful Swiss meringue. So now we set those aside and we're going to work on our lemons. So what we want is the zest of our lemons. And as I said earlier, I said hefty, but what I meant is a heaping tablespoon of zest. So I'm going to use these 3 beautiful lemons, and remember, you only want the yellow part. You don't want the pith, the white part, because that is bitter. We just want the beautiful oils and that incredible lemon flavor. So just be very careful and just do the very, very top layer of the peel of all 3 of those lemons, and then you're going to end up with a beautiful mound of lemon zest. So here we go. This is what the lemon should look like once it's been zested. I've got most of the yellow off, but I didn't go deep into the white, into the pith. And then here we go. This is about the quantity you're looking for. It's a nice heaping tablespoon of lemon zest. So now we're going to set that aside for now. And then we're going to squeeze our lemons. So we're looking for a half a cup. So in my case, these lemons are nice and juicy. So I'm only going to need the juice of 2 lemons to get to a half a cup. But that is going to vary, of course, depending on how dry or how juicy your lemons are. So that's why I use the measurement, a half a cup. So just squeeze as many lemons as you need to get to a half a cup. In my case, as I said, all I needed was 2 lemons and I hit a half a cup. So now we have what we need prepped, and we're going to work on our crust. So now would be a really good time to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, making sure you have a rack placed in the center. So now grab one of your big bowls and add to it 6 tablespoons of either salted or unsalted butter. Remember, if you use salted, then you don't want to add the additional salt. And then you're going to melt it in the microwave. Then you're going to add a cup and a half of graham cracker crumbs and a 1/4 cup of sugar and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt if using unsalted butter. Then you're just going to use a serving spoon and just mix that very well together to make sure it's nicely incorporated. Then grab some nonstick cooking spray and spray your 9-inch pie pan or tart pan really well, and then add those crumbs in. With the help of your spoon, you just want to spread those crumbs out. So the idea is to get an even coating at the bottom and the sides of the pan. So we're going to start with the bottom by just using the spoon to spread those crumbs out. And then once you get all of your crumbs in and you spread them out pretty evenly, then what we're going to do is we're going to switch, and instead of using the spoon at that point, we're going to use the back of a dry measuring cup. You can use whatever size you're comfortable with. I like to use a 1 cup measuring cup because I find it's nice and deep. It's got tall sides and it'll help me achieve what I'm looking for. So what we're trying to do is to compact all those crumbs and butter and sugar together, but we're using the sides of the measuring cup to make a crust along the sides of the pan, not just the bottom. You want to bring those crumbs all the way up the sides of the pan, because that way when we cut our beautiful lemon meringue pie, we're going to have crust on the bottom of the pie and all around the sides of the pie too. So you see how I press with the bottom of the cup, make sure it's nice and compact, and bring it all the way around and up the sides of the pan, and then just do your best to get a similar thickness throughout, and then you're good to go. So how easy was that? So now that goes straight into the oven on a center rack, and you're just going to par bake it for 10 minutes because we're going to bake this again once it has the lemon filling. So now we're going to work on our filling. Our 5 egg yolks have come to room temperature, so you're just going to grab a whisk and just whisk those egg yolks well. Look how absolutely beautiful this looks. It's going to make a beautiful, rich, thick lemon filling. So now, whisk those well, then set them aside for a moment, and then you're going to add 1 1/3 cups of water to your medium nonstick pot. The beautiful lemon juice that we squeezed earlier. Actually, I see now that I've got a pit in my lemon juice, but that's fine. Just remove it. Then we're going to add that beautiful zest that we also prepared earlier. Make sure you get all of that yummy goodness in. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add a whole cup of sugar. Then add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We need to give every layer a touch of salt, just brings out the flavor. Then we'll need 1/3 cup of cornstarch. So this is definitely going to help thicken that filling and just help it set beautifully. I'm going to add all of that in. And then once we've got that in, what we're going to do is we're going to turn our stove on to medium, and we're going to start to warm these ingredients up. So I like to use a silicone spoon, and I just very gently stir things together. It's important we stir real well because we don't want any clumps forming from our cornstarch. So before our pot gets hot, we just stir everything really, really well, and that cornstarch will just dissolve beautifully, and it's really going to help thicken up this delicious lemon filling, and it's going to help it set. So this step is super important. So just stir everything together. Now our cornstarch has dissolved into the liquid, and we're going to wait for it to bubble. So we have this on medium, and it's just going to take maybe 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and you're just going to every so often come in and give it just a little stir. You don't want anything sticking to the bottom, so every few minutes come in, give it a little stir, and very quickly you're going to notice that it's just going to start to bubble along the edges. So like I said, just 4 to 5 minutes for this process, and very quickly this is going to start to transform. So keep an eye, do not walk away. So at this point, the edges are starting to bubble. It's been about 4 minutes, and we're going to only cook this for about 2 minutes longer. And now we just want to make sure to continue to stir, because once it started to bubble, the cornstarch is going to thicken this up very quickly. I'm doing this in real time so that you can see the transformation. It's going to become a gel. You're looking at a liquid right now, and then suddenly the cornstarch is going to thicken it up, and it's going to work its magic. So we are almost there. I can feel the resistance on the spoon as I stir. It's definitely becoming more thick, which is why at this point it's important to stir continuously, because you don't want it lumpy, you don't want clumps to form, and it is going to very, very quickly just become this beautiful, thick mixture. So here we go, we're almost there. See, I think you can start to see it thickening. There we go. You can really tell how it's quickly transformed. And in total, this has not been 6 minutes. So at this point, I'm going to turn my stove off because my mixture has thickened up beautifully. I'm going to give it just another little stir, making sure nothing's sticking to the sides or the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and grab those beautiful eggs that we have just beaten together, and we're going to give it another little stir, and then we're going to temper our eggs. So how are we going to go about tempering our eggs? We're going to grab our spoon, we're going to grab just a touch of this hot mixture, add it into the eggs, and then we're going to whisk that in very quickly. And we're going to do this 2 or 3 times, just adding a touch of this beautiful lemon mixture into the eggs. And all we're doing here is tempering them so that it brings it to temperature where when we add them in to the mixture, they won't scramble, they won't cook, and we won't end up with scrambled eggs. The heat is completely off. We're just going to stir this together, and the residual heat from the pan will help begin to cook the eggs and really thicken up this beautiful lemony custard that's going to be our lemon filling for our delicious lemon meringue pie. So the eggs are fully incorporated. I'm going to take this off of the heat completely, and I'm just going to give it one more little stir, and look at how absolutely beautiful this bright yellow filling is. This is going to be perfectly tart and absolutely delicious, a great contrast from that Swiss meringue, which is nice and sweet. So now I've added in 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And again, our heat is completely off. We're off of the stove that we use. We're on a cool part of the stove top, and we're just using the residual heat of this beautiful lemon filling to melt that butter in, and it's just going to help get that filling nice and glossy and absolutely beautiful, which is why we add that touch of butter in at the end. So all you're going to do is continue to stir until you see that that butter has completely melted into our yummy lemon filling. So remember, our graham cracker crust was in the oven and we only set a 10-minute timer. So as soon as that timer goes off, you're going to bring out that beautiful graham cracker crust that smells amazing. And you do want it still warm when you add in the yummy lemon filling. It's really going to help everything bind together. So when the pie finally cools and it's ready to serve, that crust and that filling are going to marry and it's just going to be absolutely perfect. So definitely add it on while the crust is still warm. I wish you could smell this right now between that buttery graham cracker crust and that amazing lemon filling that we just poured on. It smells incredible in here. So basically you just want to make sure you get everything out of your pot and then use the back of your spoon to just smoothen out that top and just spread out that filling to make an even layer of filling. And then once you get everything in, then the pie is ready to go back in the oven. We're going to be cooking it once again at the same temperature. So just very carefully place it back in the oven on a center rack to allow the lemon pie to finish baking. But this time we're going to set a 20-minute timer. So as soon as that goes in the oven, you're going to want to grab a medium-sized pot to which you've added some water, about 1/4 of the way up, and then you're going to turn your heat onto high to quickly bring that water to a boil. As soon as it starts boiling, you're going to lower your heat to low. And remember that bowl with your beautiful egg whites, you're going to bring it over, making sure the water is not touching the bottom of the bowl. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cook these egg whites to make our beautiful Swiss meringue over this double boiler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my teaspoon of cream of tartar into my 2 1/5 cups of castor sugar. Then I'm just going to use my whisk and just gently incorporate that. And then I'm going to start to add the sugar in. I'm going to do this about 1/3 at a time, just adding a little bit of sugar as I go, and then immediately starting to whisk that sugar in. So yeah, that's more than enough. That's about 1/3 of the sugar. And then just gently whisk right on top of that simmering water. That, remember, the bowl is not touching the water, but that simmer at the bottom of the pot is creating that heat, that beautiful steam that's going to gently cook the egg whites and help dissolve the castor sugar. Why do we use castor sugar? Because we want it nice and fine, because we don't want our meringue to be gritty. So a fine sugar is what you need for this beautiful Swiss meringue. So I'm going to just use my spatula to scrape down the sides as needed. And then I'm just going to continue to whisk away. I'm just incorporating the sugar into the egg whites while the sugar is melting. And if you're wondering why we add the cream of tartar into our Swiss meringue, it's because it helps stabilize our meringue, makes it amazing for piping, and of course it also brings a very slight tartness that balances that sweetness of the meringue so well and works so well with the lemon filling. So now at this point I've incorporated my sugar. I did it about 1/3 of the sugar at a time, and I'm just scraping the sides of my bowl. And then I continue to whisk, because what I want to do is just give this another couple of minutes once I've had the opportunity to add all of my castor sugar in, because I want to make sure that I don't have any grains of sugar that have not dissolved. So at this point I'm just whisking away, and you'll notice that you don't really need more than 4 or 5 minutes for this whole process, because this happens very quickly. And then as soon as you've whisked for 4 or 5 minutes, I'm going to show you how to test to make sure that you're not feeling any of the grains of sugar in this beautiful mixture, so that you get a nice, beautiful, fluffy meringue. So I haven't wanted to clip this part of the video because I do want to show you how the color also transforms and how it becomes more of a frothy mixture, and that's how you know you are ready to go. So when you look at it now, it almost looks like a combination of white and yellow, but as you continue to stir, you're just going to notice that at the top becomes a nice foamy color of white. So when you get to that point, that's when you should test to see if you feel any grains. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab your spatula, you're going to let the mixture just drip down, and you're going to rub your fingers together with that mixture in between them to make sure you don't feel any grains. And if you don't, then you're ready. You're just going to turn off your stove and you're going to remove the pot from the heat. You're just going to move it off of the hot burner completely. And then what you're going to do is you're going to make sure you have your oven mitts on because your bowl will be hot. And then you're going to bring it over to the bowl of your mixer. It has to be nice and clean. You don't want any residue oil, anything on that bowl. Nice and clean. And you're just going to pour in this beautiful mixture we made with the egg whites, cream of tartar, and the castor sugar. We're going to pour that in. We're going to add our whisk attachment to our mixer, and then we're going to start to whip this up. But just as I'm getting started, my timer on my oven went off, so I pulled out my pie, and that's good because I want it nice and hot when I add this beautiful meringue on top of it. So we want to time ourselves really well, and we want to start working on our next step as soon as we put our pie in the oven. That's when you want to start working on your meringue. So as usual, I started on low speed and then just gently incorporate a little bit of air, and then little by little we're going to increase that speed until we go all the way up to high. So what we're looking to do here is that we're going to whip these up for about 6 to 7 minutes. It shouldn't take more than 7 minutes, but what you're going to do is you're going to watch it. You're going to take a look at it, and you're going to see how it transforms. You see how it's becoming thicker, it's becoming wider. And so what you want to do is after no more than 7 minutes, then we're going to stop it for a moment because we do have a couple of more ingredients that we're going to be adding in. So look at how beautiful and thick and frothy it's looking. So at this point, it's only been 6 minutes for me, but I think I'm ready to stop it. So I'm going to stop it for a moment, and then I'm going to bring over my half a teaspoon of fine sea salt. You want it fine because, once again, we don't want to feel those grains in our beautiful meringue. And then I'm going to bring over 2 teaspoons of either a vanilla paste or a vanilla extract. You definitely want to use the good stuff because this is really going to flavor that meringue. It's going to be absolutely divine. I love this stuff. I could just eat it straight up, scoop it out. So good. So now I've incorporated my last 2 ingredients. I'm going to turn my mixer on once again. And as usual, I kind of start slow, just let it to begin incorporating the ingredients, and then I'm going to raise that speed and I'm going to whip these in. So at this point, all we need is about 2 more minutes and we're good to go. At this point, we're almost ready. We're looking to make stiff peaks, which I'm going to show you soon what that looks like. And we're looking to incorporate the last 2 ingredients that we just added. So now 2 minutes or so have passed and it's thickening up. You can see how the texture is changing. So I'm going to slow down my speed and then I'm going to turn it off. And you see how a lot of it accumulated inside of the whisk. That's how you know you are ready to go. But just to double check it, I'm going to remove the whisk attachment and then I'm going to clean off the whisk. I'm just going to use my spatula to help me clean off the whisk and remove some of the beautiful meringue that has accumulated inside of the whisk. And then once I've done that, I'm going to check for stiff peaks. So this is what you want to see. You want to see that your peak stands up, doesn't fall over onto itself. It's perfect, delicious, and ready to go. So now I'm just going to use my spatula to clean down the sides of the bowl, and then I'm going to be using this to pipe on top of my beautiful lemon pie. I will say you can't serve that lemon pie as is and not make the meringue if you're ever in a rush, want to make a quick dessert. I mean, you saw how quickly that graham cracker crust came together, and that lemon filling, super easy, done on a double boiler. It took maybe 10 minutes? Super, super simple. And the crust also super easy, super quick. But if you want to take this over the top, then you're going to make this gorgeous mound of meringue and we're going to torch it. It's going to be crazy good. So now I have my piping bag, which I fitted with a nice large round tip, and I'm using a cup to help hold my piping bag as I add that beautiful meringue in, and then I just squeeze that bag together and make sure to bring that meringue all the way down so that we don't have air bubbles in it. And then you see how easy it is to do once we use that bag. It's almost like a helper hand to help us get some of that meringue in. So notice I folded down the top of the bag to keep that area clean, or as clean as possible. And then you don't want to overfill this. You don't want it popping out through the top. You just want to fill it enough where you can grab it and you can kind of squeeze it and get the air out. And see, that's the tip I'm using. It's large and round. It's absolutely perfect for the design I'm going to make on my beautiful pie. So remember, I just pulled my pie out of the oven. It's nice and hot, and that's when you want to pipe your meringue on. But just take a moment to admire how gorgeous this looks. Look at that gorgeous yellow color from the lemon, from the eggs, and that delicious buttery graham cracker crust. Wow. Now, we're going to take this to the next level, and we're going to pipe on our meringue. Could we scoop it on instead? Yes, we could. But by doing this, not only are we getting a gorgeous design, but we're creating all of these little peaks that will just caramelize as we torch our meringue. And it's just going to make it all the more special. Not to mention, it's going to have a wow presentation. Anyone you serve this to, you are going to hear the oohs and ahs. Everyone will be wowed, because not only will this look amazing, it's going to be super delicious. So now, as you can see, I just make sure to squeeze out the air and just gently press and lift. I press down and I lift, press and lift as I am gently squeezing my piping bag to create these beautiful dollops of meringue as I go along. And if I find one is a little too high, it's a good excuse to lick my fingers. And then I just continue to press and lift, making these beautiful little dollops all the way around the circumference of the pie. And then, of course, I'm going to continue to add this meringue, which is why we whipped up 8 egg whites, because we're going to use all of our meringue for this pie. We're going to continue to kind of work in circles until we cover the entire surface of the pie. But that's just going to be our base layer of our meringue, because we're going to continue to build on top of that first layer. And to do so, as I said, you're going to work in circles until you filled the entire pie. And then once that base layer has been laid out, for lack of a better word, then you're going to continue to add dollops of meringue on top of that layer, also working in a circular motion and just filling in any empty spot. The idea is to create height. So we're just going to add a layer and then another layer and just keep going until we run out of meringue and we create plenty of height. And I'm taking it all the way out to the crust, but you can leave a border of crust if you prefer to see that crust exposed on the edges, or you can take it all the way out, however you want. At the end of the day, you can even change the piping tip if you want to. This is your pie, so you can pipe it on however you want. But I absolutely love the look. When I do it this way, it just looks gorgeous, and it's always a showstopper, especially after we torch it. Everyone is like, wow, this is crazy, and it's so good. So I absolutely love this process, and as you can see, I've used every single last drop, and look at the height I got. Incredible how much meringue I've piled on. And yes, it's a whole lot of meringue, but this is not something you eat every day. This is something for a really special occasion, a real special treat. And as I said, it's a showstopper kind of a dessert. And it's so much fun. I have a blast when I make this in my kitchen, and I love serving it because I love seeing everyone's face when I bring this to the table, because it's just really, really spectacular. So that's it. I've piped on all of my meringue, and then we only have one step left. As you can imagine, we have to torch this beauty, and we're going to transform it. So here we go. We turn on our torch, and be very careful because these guys run super, super hot. So you have to be very, very careful as you do this, but have fun and enjoy it and take in that amazing scent. It smells like toasted marshmallows, as if you were sitting toasting a marshmallow on an open flame. It's so good. One of my favorite things in the world is a toasted marshmallow. That's probably on the top 3 of my favorite flavors in the world. Just, I absolutely adore it. And this is what this tastes like. It's just absolutely divine, sweet, pillowy, and overall crazy good. So you want to toast this to your liking. I like mine a little on the toasty side, but you can leave it lighter or darker. But the idea is you're going to turn your pie as you work so that you make sure you get every angle and you really just get all that maximum caramelization, and all those lovely peaks are nice and toasty so that your pie tastes amazing and looks spectacular. So have fun in the process. So now I've toasted up all of my meringue, and what's left is to just admire this masterpiece for a moment. Now tell me that doesn't look crazy good. Whoever invented the lemon meringue pie was a genius. The combination of graham cracker crust, that tart lemon filling, and that incredible meringue on top, so good. And whoever decided to torch that meringue, I mean, really, I think they need a Nobel Prize. So at this point, you're going to want to let your beautiful pie sit on a cooling rack for at least 1 hour at room temperature. And this is the hardest part of them all, because ideally you do not want to serve this pie until it's had 5 or 6 hours to cool. So after an hour, you're going to want to cover it. I use a bowl, a plastic bowl upside down with the lid as the base to put it in my fridge, but you can use some skewers. Just take 3 or 4 of those bamboo type skewers, just prick the pie in 3 or 4 places and throw some plastic wrap on top and stick it in the fridge. You want to let it sit for another 4 or 5 hours, making a total of at least 5 to 6 hours of cooling time before you slice into this beauty. Yes, that is the hardest part of this recipe. So I told you earlier I was going to show you the one I made in a tart pan. I made this one when I was recipe developing to make sure everything turned out perfectly, and look how gorgeous this looks. So I'm actually thinking of making a video soon of either a quiche or a chocolate pie, so that I can also show you how to make a short crust pastry if you want to make that for this pie, or for my key lime pie that I've already recorded and have up on my channel. So you have options for the type of crust you want to make for your pies, but I will do that in an upcoming video. The cool thing about a short crust pastry is that once you learn how to make it, it's the same recipe for a savory or a sweet pie. You just add a touch of sugar into the mix when you're making it for a sweet pie, but you can also make it for quiches. It's just a really versatile dough. So I'm going to teach you how to make that in an upcoming video, so make sure you stay tuned. Anyway, I just want to make sure to show you this pie too. It's the same exact recipe, exactly like I made it today, but I used a tart pan instead. Gives it a little bit of a different look. So whichever way you want to go, you can use a tart pan, a pie pan, whatever you prefer. They're going to look gorgeous no matter what kind of pan you use. So now my gorgeous pie is ready to be cut into. I let it sit in the fridge. After sitting room temperature for an hour, I gave it another 5 hours in the fridge. I just couldn't wait another hour. I think it's ready to go. So we're going to slice into it and we're going to give it a taste. So I just like to take a long, thin knife to help me cut through the pie and make sure to cut that bottom, that graham cracker crust. And then what I do is I wipe off the knife before I go in for my next cut. And regardless, the first piece is always going to be a disaster. I always make quite a mess with the first slice of pie, but it's okay. It's still going to be delicious, but I have no doubt that I'm going to make a mess out of this, but it's all good. You know what it looks like.
And believe me, when you taste it, you're not going to care if that first slice is messy or not because it's super tasty. So here we go. Oh goodness. Okay, here we go. Not terrible. I didn't do a terrible job at removing that first slice. And as I said, it's tough. After that, it becomes much easier to slice. So I'm going in and I'm going to grab a bite. We've got that beautiful crust, that lemon filling, and that delicious meringue. I cannot wait. My mouth is salivating. Mmm. So crazy good. Oh my goodness. I cannot. There are no words to describe how crazy good this is. That buttery graham cracker crust, that lemony filling. Oh, there's something magical about that toasted meringue and that lemony filling together. So crazy good. Oh my goodness. Let me take another bite. Let me try to show you again up close so that you can see the different layers of this pie. You see that crust on the bottom, absolutely perfect, and that beautiful layer of lemon, slightly tart, and it's a perfect contrast to that amazing torched Swiss meringue that we created on top. It's just so crazy good. I'm telling you, you are going to love this, and anyone who tries it is going to be wowed. My goodness. See, here's a better bite because that corner piece was hard to see, but you see that beautiful layer that you got going on, those beautiful 3 layers, I should say. Mmm, 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 mmm. Perfectly delicious, an incredible combination of textures and flavors, that fluffiness, the torched meringue, the buttery crust, all of it together, pure perfection. See, here's a close-up look. Absolutely divine. You can see the difference, those 3 layers that when brought together and torched, wow. This really is an absolute masterpiece. I just can't get enough. I'm going in for another bite and it's just gorgeous and absolutely delicious. Every single part is just phenomenal. So good. So I just want to show you the next slice that I cut. I cut a few slices to take to my mom, and just look at how absolutely gorgeous this looks. The first one, I didn't do it justice. I kind of destroyed the top as I went to serve it onto my plate. But look at how beautiful it looks with those beautiful torched mounds of meringue on top. Yeah, this is definitely a masterpiece.
So did I tell you this was going to be absolutely gorgeous? The pictures, the video doesn't even do it justice. In person, it is really wow, just a complete showstopper. But even more importantly, it is delicious. That combination of that buttery graham cracker crust together with that delicious, somewhat tart lemon filling and the mounds of meringue on top that have been torched. Mmm, so good. I can't even talk about it without my mouth watering. It's absolutely divine. And of course, I know I tortured it when I cut that first slice, but after you get over that first slice, the rest will come out a whole lot prettier. And regardless, the flavor is amazing. It's so absolutely divine. I know everyone is going to love it. Trust me. No, better yet, don't trust me. You're going to have to try to make this recipe yourself. And of course, if you enjoyed today's recipe, don't forget to like it, to write me a sweet comment, to share it with your friends. Thank you so much. I don't know if you realize just how much sharing my videos and watching my video from beginning to end really helps my channel. So thank you so much. And of course, when you share, you give other people the opportunity to get to know my channel that may not have been exposed to me before. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you're not already subscribed here on YouTube, stop what you're doing, go over, subscribe, and touch that little notification bell so that you get notified every time I put out a new recipe video, which I'm doing all of the time. And I have tons of content already there. So please go over to Sally, That Girl in the Kitchen on YouTube and explore. There's so many different types of food for you to enjoy there, so don't miss them. And if you're not following me on social media, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest as Sally, That Girl in the Kitchen, and on X, Snapchat, and on TikTok for now on TikTok as Sally That Girl FL. And I'm also on Threads, and I have an Amazon shop where I feature a lot of the products that I feature in these videos to help you find them. So if you need the links to that store or to any of my social media pages, you can go on and find that at the top of my Facebook and Instagram pages and pinned to the banner here on YouTube. You'll find all of the different places that you can follow me, so be sure you follow me everywhere. And once again, I just want to take a moment to thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate you doing so, and thank you so much for cooking and for sending me pictures of your own creations. Thank you so much. You can do that through Facebook and Instagram Messenger, and I love getting all that from you because it really makes me happy that not only you're watching, but you're cooking. So once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Sally That Girl in the kitchen.